Hi, everybody. So today we're going to go over some points about how do you set yourself up for personal success and professional success. Um, and this is actually a question that you would think is kind of relatively easy, but it is very hard because there's a lot of factors involved in it. And personal and professional success to me does blend. They are going to impact one another. But I think for you to be able to even get to a professional place that you want to be, you really personally need to be doing well and be at your best. And to clarify, that doesn't mean that you're a size two and all that jazz and running 5 miles a day. So some of the objectives or things we're going to talk about is discuss what success means. Now, again, that definition is going to vary to person. And one of the things you'll hear me say, because it really is a pet peeve of mine, nobody has a right to tell you what your success would look like. What I mean is, it's okay if your idea of what success would be professionally is to have a corner office. You may have to pivot, but if that's your vision, that's fine. I always laugh and say, if I get married again, I want a rock. I want a big ass diamond, and that's it. And people can call me materialistic for days. That's okay. Go ahead and get your rubber rings, walk around, do whatever you want. I don't care. My preference, that'll tell you how quickly I'm going to get married. But those are the types of things to remember, not only because you want the same respect for yourself, but to remember to also give it to other people. Because I can find myself being a petty Betty. I'm not going to lie. So I also have to take my own message in myself. Also discuss strategies for that professional and personal success. We kind of define it, then we talk about what is it? And then how do you identify opportunities for personal and professional success? And again, this is very, very personal. It's individual. It's not going to look the same for everybody. My success is going to be a lot different. We could actually use the analogy of diets. My 5 pounds is a lot different from her 5 pounds, depending on who you are. So it's going to be different no matter what. Somebody's goal may be to run 5 miles. Mine's going to be, let me get out of the chair a couple times a day and move around. And again, then identifying the next steps for the individual, personal, and professional success. So when we talk about personal success, a big part of this is, who are you? And what does it look like to you? Everybody is different. You're going to hear me saying this a lot. And I know you're like, I know this. Sometimes you really don't know this, and neither do the people around you. So this is where it's very important for you to define it for yourself, because you should not be letting other people define it for you. And I always use the example. I spoke with a wonderful person today. Most people are wonderful. And we were talking about how, depending on where you're from, there might not be a mindset of higher education, or there may not be, they may not be as wanting to have their hair done or their nails done. That's not something they think about or they want to do. But again, we've talked about it. Everybody's going to have different ways of doing things and how they view things. We have to remember that everybody is individualized. But if you don't know what that is, because you've been so bogged down with everybody else's thoughts, this is where, when they talk about generational trauma, and I know this is deep, sorry, but this does impact your personal success. So again, they bleed into one another, they're personal and professional. So this is where we look at ourselves and we say, what work are we going to be willing to do to get there? Does that mean you go to therapy? I don't know. I've always kind of been hesitant back and forth, but I love to listen to therapists and hear how they kind of discuss different ways of dealing with stress and anxiety and other things. I throw this in there because of my own personal experience. I'm dealing with menopause, which, thank goodness for TikTok, right? For letting me know that there's these hidden symptoms such as panic attacks and anxiety, because I thought I was losing my mind, because I'm like, where is this happening coming from? So it's the little things that compound up that are going to be a hindrance. And the minute you start to recognize these and you own them and say, yes, I recognize it, it doesn't mean that you don't love your family. It doesn't mean that you're not want to stay married to your husband. It just means that you have to identify where your barriers are, or who's influencing you in your identification for personal success. And are you going to be able to withstand that? So those are some big, heavy things that need to be discussed. And it's probably a bigger topic, obviously, than just this PowerPoint. And again, self-awareness, we were talking about that. What are your goals? Are there old habits? Like for me, I drank pretty heavily back in the day. It was an old habit, but I had to kind of learn to step away, and I smoked. So then I had to kind of work through that. Self-sabotage. Oh my God. I do this in every part of my life, as you can tell, but like, especially with papers. I know damn right well 3 weeks in advance the paper's going to be due, but I will put it off. I believe I'm not going to be able to do it, so therefore I don't do it. Meanwhile, I'm more than capable of doing it. And that again goes back to maybe some generational trauma, some other things that are going on. Work through them. Because if the first thing out of your mouth is you can't, or you're too old, or I'm not smart enough, that's a problem. That's beyond the truth. It's not the truth. You can. So look into that, because I love you all. And I think we do that to ourselves too much. Support systems. And I loved this. A colleague of mine said this, and it's so true. If you're the smartest one in your friends group, get a new group of friends. And I know that sounds harsh, but nobody's challenging you to do better and to be better. And I think that that's people, especially in small towns, you have these big fish that if they left that town would shrink and not survive because they're used to not having to try hard because, like, yeah. So again, the people around you may be support, but they're not going to be the support you need. Make sure you find the support you need. It may be professors, it may be classmates, it may be friends that you work with. And yes, I said friends that you work with, because I do believe that you can have friends at work. Ooh. And then again, here's generational trauma. And I wanted to put this here on TikTok again for the win. Like, this started coming up a lot on my For You page, if that says anything about my TikTok. And I thought, gosh, this is really profound. Generational trauma is unresolved trauma and shame that's genetically inherited from mother to father, or epigenetic inheritance. It surfaces as disempowering feelings, behaviors that make no sense or context of the life that's experiencing it, right? Because the difference between a lot of the individuals like Simon Sinek and these wonderful people that you see out there making it big, they just kept moving. Oprah Winfrey, they just kept moving, you know? And once you stop and you accept your life, that's where you're going to stay. And it's not going to be easy, right? So you just got to keep moving. I always bring up the frog analogy because this is always a wonderful analogy. If you put two frogs, let's say, in water, I used to use this in the hospital setting with new grads starting on the unit, right? And especially anybody, I always said, get a mentor outside of your department, because like the frog mentality, if both frogs are in that water and it's just slowly heating up, it's normal to them. Like they're just going to cook themselves. Like, it's like, oh. But if you throw a frog into hot water, what's it going to do? Instinctively, it's going to jump the hell out. It's like, whoa, it's too hot. Same principle for the mentors, why I did that. So you had somebody going, girl, if you've seen the TikToks where they go, not normal. So it's always good to be able to hear objective thoughts on what's going on in your life. So again, work through. And here I have to tell you, this aligned so well with Marie Kondo. Kondo, I think that's how you say it. In her whole What Brings You Joy, I have always said, if it doesn't bring me joy, and that includes people, that can be family. If it doesn't bring you joy, I can't have it. I can't. And that's how she talks about when you go through and you hold things, right? And if it means something to you and keep it. It's not. And I think that can facilitate into your normal life. Even if it's something like you've been going to school and you're miserable and you didn't want to go to school, maybe you had another idea and you're miserable, don't go. And I know your parents, whoever's going to be like, oh, but how committed are you to doing it, right? And this is where we have to be really mindful of backhanded compliments. Oh, gotta love them. I have a colleague that I used to work with that was like, yeah, I know you're not really complimenting me, but thank you. And I guess burning bridges, always talking about these, don't burn a bridge. Some of these things that you're going to hear are just so ridiculous. If I walk away from you, trust me when I say that bridge can burn, I'm not walking back to you. I'm not going to suck face and be nice to you because I might need to come back to you. I'm going to do something to get the hell out of there, and I'm not coming back. So bye, Felicia. So that whole adage, and now I see a lot more of the let the burn the bridge, or I'm going to the match, and I love that. So keep that in mind. And then again, getting a mentor. I can't, everybody, I think sometimes we don't ask people because we don't think they're going to say yes. When that person is going to be like, "Oh, I would love to mentor you. Let me mentor you." I get great success. That's why I started JLH Enterprises, because it's something I want to do, and I can now hopefully do it for a living. And that's important to me because I do find a lot of joy in this. Books. I'm not much of an avid book reader. So there's a book by Robin Roberts that's called Eight. It was seven, now it's Eight Rules to Live By, and from the heart. And it's such an easy read. I recommend it to anybody who's not read it. And the reason I loved it is, one, it's an easy read, and I'm not a book reader, but it spoke to me. And it was broken down so that when you read it, you absorbed it. And there was a couple parts to it. One of them was making your mess your message. And what I mean, and what I think that means to me, what I translate that is, sometimes we hold things because we're embarrassed, or we don't. Take back your power. If something's happened in your life that maybe wasn't the best, share it, because one, you help others learn. The respect level goes up tenfold because you're opening up, and it releases you from giving power to somebody else over you, you know? So always remember that. But the other thing in there was, it said, setting yourself up for the shot. And this is where, when we talk about personal and professional growth, sometimes we do things and we think, ooh, like I always use myself with this business as an example, like, oh, but then you think, oh, screw it. Like, I wish it didn't take me until I was 50, but it did. But people were really chastising her because she left this job to go in what looked like a step back, like not forward trajectory. It was going backwards. But she had the foresight to look at where that job eventually could get her. And obviously, look where she is. If she had not have done that, she would not be front and center and the national sweetheart to everybody. So I would suggest, if you haven't read it, to look at it, because I think it's, like I said, it's an easy read. And I really got a lot of meaningful. Each chapter is kind of broken down into those nuggets. Webinars and workshops. Like, if you're listening to this, you're taking the time to just kind of soak up some new things, listening to other people's perspectives. Because the one thing about doing this for me is that I can share my message, and it's my message. And if you want it, take it. If you don't, leave it. And that's empowering, right? And then again, got to plug it, but personal success coach. I don't know why life coach for me is a little, but I've had coaches. I still do. I had wonderful mentors, and I call myself a personal and professional success coach. And I'm going to have another video where I talk about what does that mean and what does that entail. Identify opportunities. I think sometimes, and again, I'm going to say it, you are good enough, you are able, and it doesn't mean it's bad if you do it and you don't like it. But if you don't try, you will always wonder what ifs. So again, Google, look into things. You'd be surprised how many things are out there for free that you can get connected with. You might have a mentor that can guide you to find different things. Don't be afraid of it. I would challenge you, when you get done watching this, that you go and you Google something random. It can be like basket weaving. Maybe you've always wanted to learn how to grow something. I don't know. Go look it up. Do it. And I know money can be an issue, this and that. Little by little, you can get where you need to go. Sometimes on, sites, they're selling things cheaper. So identify opportunities, make opportunities. Sky's the limit. I'm just saying. And again, in these moments, this is where, even from a professional, I'll jump a minute, but I think everybody's afraid to put in resumes because of the interview. But interviewing doesn't mean you have to take the job. One, I think getting practices interviewing, it's a great thing. I think validating and giving yourself that moment of, oh my gosh, I do have value. And look at that. Now, professional success, again, it's kind of the same. Who are you? Who are you as a professional? Are you in a job right now that you really thrive in? Or are you one of the individuals in the world that just wants to go to work, do their job, get the check, and that's it? Or are you somebody who aspires to have more recognition, be in a maybe shared decision-making, or a culture where It's a lot more supportive and embracing and understanding, work-life balance. And again, we go back to what is professional success. Some people, it's just coming in, doing their job, going home. Others, it's getting the name on the door. It's getting the corner office. It's, whatever that looks like, the title. And it's okay to want a title. People are such blowhards about, oh, I'm not in it for the title. Okay, well, my degree in my college payment fund is saying I am. I'm kidding. Oh, no, I'm not. But I think we take people's moments so quick because either they're people that they don't believe they can do it or they don't want to see you do it. So if you want to be the director of Hoogie Doogie Fartville, I am supporting you 100%. You can do it. I hope that's not a real thing. And again, I'm giving you total permission to want the big stuff. I want to live in Golden Oaks, Disney World. Will I? I don't know, but I'm putting it into prophecy. I want to do that. And a lot of this stuff, like for personal and professional success, say it out loud. Don't be afraid to say it out loud. We hold on to things and don't share. It's like that crush that you have, but you don't tell them because you're afraid of rejection. Who gives a shit? Put it out in the universe. Tell somebody you close to, I really would like to do this. And I'm going to tell you real quick, if they shit on it, then you need a new friend. I'm just going to point out it's a good way to clean out the closet, if you will. So professional success, do your homework. This is a little bit more nitty gritty because I think we shy away from getting degrees and all because they're like, oh, and well, I love Gary Vee and I agree with him. I don't think there's a point here and there, but I think he could also be contradicted because there's a lot of people who don't go to these Ivy League schools that get good jobs with degrees that are good. So while there's some data that supports certain parts of it, degrees do have value. And if you go back to school, there's so many colleges right now with the environment being what it is, virtually students are older, people are working full time, they will work with you. Trust me. I went full time to school while I was a single parent and I went to school, don't scoff, from 2010 all the way to 2019, pretty much. I had a year off here and there, but I did it. And I had great people along the way that supported me. And I think my son got an example of why you keep moving, you keep going, you can do it. And I give an example for myself because I was not the best student in high school. I barely graduated, I had to do a correspondence course. You remember back in the day, because we didn't have computers, you shoved it in an envelope and whatever. True story. But I went back to see a professor from when I went to my first college that I was on academic probation and what have you. And she even said, if you had told me that you would go back to nursing school, you would get your doctorate, I would never have believed it. She said, I would never have believed it. And I thought, damn. But then I thought, wow, okay, well, that's good. Financial support. This can be a lot of different places. Now, I will tell you, I did federal loans for my doctorate. And while they can be convenient, they're kind of scary after because that payback, and I think you're seeing a lot of that in the news now. So just be mindful and have a plan in place to pay it back, either while you're going or what have you. And then job opportunities, make a plan. Go through what I always tell people is, especially when you're doing a resume, look at the jobs and don't look at what they require to be hired with the company. Look at what that role is. Are they things that you could do now? Are they things that you have the ability to do? And then when we do resumes, that's what we look at. And we do the keywords and we try to make it so when it goes to those lovely machines that pick out keywords, it pulls it. But then you also can look at the requirements. It's going to show you where you need to go. So you may not like the fact that it requires a bachelor's. Well, are you going to just prove some point, cut off your nose to spite your face by like, well, I'm not going to do that. Well, then enjoy sitting at flipping burgers. Enjoy, never ever getting promoted. You're not proving anything to anybody. You're not being a badass by saying, I'm not going to do it. That's up to you. But then don't bitch about not getting where you wanted to go. Sorry, soapbox. I'm off now. And scene. And also, here we go. Resume, I just talked about it. Now, I will tell you that didn't have that on my services with my business right away. And a friend of mine said, I'm blessed to have such the best hype queens ever in my life. And they were like, you should probably do the resume. Do you do that? And I thought, oh, so I did. Guess what? That was like the first, that has kept me busier than anything. So clean up your resume. Now I am pretty reasonable because I recognize some of these companies, I went through one and it was okay. But I think for the money that you pay for it, I should have came out of there with a job. Okay. So resources, websites, Microsoft templates. There are so many things and resources for not only your resume, but just, external reviews like Glassdoor, like do your research. I'm actually going to start to work on interviewing skills. Practice interviews are huge. Do it with your friends. If you work in HR, sometimes they'll do mock interviews. Other managers, your manager, look up and, Google. But here's the thing too, be mindful of what sites you're using and don't ever feel like you don't know enough to ask the question. Because we just had a conversation with one of my clients and made a comment. She saw where you shouldn't ask about the salary in the first interview. Like you say, why not? Okay, here's the thing. You absolutely can, but here's what you would say. You would just ask for the budget for the role, because what they're going to try to do, because you might come into it maybe with higher credentials than what they need. That means you probably would be higher on the pay scale for them. So they're going to ask you, what are you looking to make in the role? Well, it's a trick question. You don't answer that, okay? Because one, you could lowball yourself. And two, you don't spill your hand. You ask them, what's the budget for the role? Because here's the deal. If you have a job and you've advertised it, you're interviewing me, you have to have a base and a cap, in there. So you need to have an idea. If they don't, do you really need to be there? So there's going to be a lot of conflicting. You'll hear a lot of contradicting things. They'll say, oh, don't ask. But then over here, why not? I'm of the school, why not? Ooh, taboo. You remember you're interviewing them too. So that's another thing. Also, you can shadow these positions. You can go in there and ask, and especially let's say you want to be a CEO. And if you have somebody that can get you into a CEO office, or just email and say, I'm very interested in this role. If you have an internship and you're in school, I would really like to shadow. One, they see initiative with that. And then you get a really keen eye on, that's one of the things about an extern program in nursing world. And I think some of the interns that you see people doing in other businesses and stuff, because it gives you a bird's eye view, not only of the organization, and if it's a field of nursing you want to be in, but it gives the organization an interview for you to see your time management, your dedication, your commitment. So always remember that you're there interviewing them as well. And again, conferences, I will tell you though, I'm glad they do virtual options now, and some of them do pay by little, because some conferences are just too expensive. There's no way. If I didn't have organizational support for professional development money, I'd never be going to conferences. And I think it's a shame, because I think there's a demographic. I think there's people that would go to them if they could afford them. Because there are organizations that just don't have the resources to do that, right? Not that they don't want to, but they would like to. Tuition reimbursement. I will say that I've been very fortunate. My first organization, we got $5,000 flat. Always check. Look at the loopholes too, because sometimes if it's not towards the role you're in, they'll be like, no. But if you've seen like the Amazon commercials where the guy's going to nursing school and he works at Amazon, they're supporting that 100%. Where I came from, they did. Unfortunately, the pot was like, they capped it at 5,000. So really, most people didn't get any of the money, truth be told. So always make sure you're aware of the policy. And if there's a timeline, jump in. Because people where I used to work, they were like at midnight, they were in there putting their papers in. Scholarships. I had to say, with my son now going to college, there are so many scholarships. There really are. So anywhere and everywhere that you can think of for a scholarship, jump on it and go for it. Okay? Because even for your kid, for anything, not even just for big things like colleges, sometimes there's scholarships to conferences, to other events. So keep an eye out. And then you want to know yourself to lead yourself. And this is actually from Giant, that with the 5 voices, which I absolutely love. But I wanted to get certified, but it was just way too much. So no. But once you know yourself, you have that reality, you know your consequence, you lead yourself. That's going to lead to your action. And action is really what I hope you take away from this. There's a lot of parts to this. Start a journal if you want to. I always start them, but I never finish them. I just don't. But I do talk to myself. So that would be something. I'm a firm believer in it. Talk to yourself. But one of the things that I will tell you that has happened that has made me start to think differently, and I'm going to share a clip next. That is one of my favorite clips that Jim Carrey did, and you may be familiar with it. But I think when you listen to what he has to say, and this is one of the reasons that I really keep this in the back of my mind as I'm doing my business, as I work with anybody. So I hope it's the takeaway message you get that I got. So here we go.
You can spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about the pathway to the future, but all there will ever be is what's happening here and the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear. So many of us choose our path out of fear disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it. I'm saying I'm the proof that you can ask the universe for it. My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love.
Ooh, I love that. I don't know if you get goosebumps as you're watching that, but it's pretty amazing. So remember that. What in the universe? I think he even said, or he was the one, or there was another one that wrote himself a check for $10 million or 10,000. It was something nominal for a certain year. And he got to that goal. And when he was able to pull that check out, he had that money. So for next steps, the actionable things, the things that you need to take away is you're going to make a commitment to yourself. So by being here today, you're going to make a commitment to yourself to determine what your professional and personal successes are and what that looks like to you. Be open and honest with yourself. It's okay if you've worked a job for 20 years and you realize that you really aren't as happy as you thought you were. It's okay. And it's okay to start over. There is no time limit. There's no age limit. It's okay. Because Jen said so. Also, lead by example. People are watching you. People you don't even know are watching you. And that's one of the things I always resonate with even nursing students when they're on that stage graduating. And I did a commencement speech and I told them, somebody out in that audience right now, you are inspiring. Right now at this moment, you are their reason. You are their why. So you'll never forget that. And again, if you have little ones, you have kids, no matter what their age is, they're watching you. And you can't give them a reason to have an excuse if you can do it, right? And you're worth the effort and the investment. I spent so much of my life not thinking I'm worth it, but you know what I am? I am worth it. And so are you. And you need to trust yourself. Are you going to hiccup? Are you going to fall? Maybe. Who knows? But you know what? You'll be okay. Pivot. You'll be all right. It's going to be okay. Get the people in your life and surround yourself with a tribe that's going to help you get through it. And it's long-term goals. It's not a race. Look, I told you, I went to school from 2010 to I wasn't in a hurry. Okay. Wasn't in a hurry. So be kind, give yourself grace. And I just really appreciate you taking time to listen and be a part of this conversation. So again, check out my website. And if you are interested in getting to work with me one-on-one or have any other services that you might like to talk about, feel free to hit me up. You're awesome. Thank you.